I know we've touched on this a little bit through the last couple months while we're in the middle of the John Cena heel run. But now that it is official, he's now a babyface again, as per SummerSlam and the night before SummerSlam. I wanted to now that it's over now because because you said that he was definitely going to turn babyface again at some point. I didn't think it'd be this soon. I thought it'd be maybe a little bit closer to the end of the run. But we're here now, and now with now 4 months to go until the senior retirement tour comes to an end. Let's put a bow on it right now. The Cena heel turn, my opinion, real quick. I thought the actual turn was fantastic. I thought the first month or so after it was really good. The first couple of promos out the shoot. The WrestleMania match was not. I mean, the ending was kind of fucked up, of course, but I thought everything up until Backlash, I thought was heading in a solid direction, and it felt like after the whole thing with the R-Truth thing and after Backlash, the whole thing went to shit, and we just knew, okay, this is not hitting. So I gave it, because the turn itself was actually effective enough, it had impact. I'll give it a C because the turn was great, and the first couple weeks out of it was great, and his reasoning for doing it was great. But then everything after that just felt like a fart in church, man. So what grade would you give the Cena heel turn?
C sounds about right because, like you said, the turn itself was excellent. And like those first couple of weeks afterwards, for me, the WrestleMania ending was just
Convoluted would be the understatement.
it was it, and again we talked about this before, the fact that it was Travis Scott and not,
Thank you.
and then Travis Scott ended up being so bad at this that they basically just told him go home.
Yeah, the best I heard in the last 2 weeks was that Paul Heyman confirmed that the Travis Scott stuff was not working. I'm like, thank God.
Yeah, and then basically he wasn't picking it up, so they just told him to get out of here. So that part, I mean, that was like the first big, just failure, I think. And then also in hindsight, I mean, and then the fact that they got revealed basically that the Rock showing up was just kind of a last minute thing. It wasn't part of any bigger plan. And
Yeah,
then I thought everything leading up to the match with Randy was good. Between WrestleMania, after WrestleMania up until he had the match with Randy, I thought that was good. Some good
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And I thought the match with Randy went well. And then
It's a nice throwback.
yeah, and then like the R-Truth stuff was all bad. And then the fact that him getting R-Truth contract running out like in real life, the fact that it overlapped with all of that, and they had no plan. Like that was just all messy and just awful.
Yeah.
I thought they rebounded a bit when he and Punk did the thing at was it Night of Champions?
Yeah.
So I thought that was a nice rebound there, and
That felt like to be honest with you, that felt like a last gasp though. Like that match, that build, felt like a last
yeah,
gasp.
and then after that it went back to crap again, and then just the fact that the way they turned him back was just like
It was so sudden. Like there was no like reasoning. There's nothing. It just kind of like this. Okay, well, can you remember how some of that old booking back in the day where Vince will he'll book a feud, and then with no rhyme or reason, about 6 months later, that the people they're feuding with are like best friends again. And but there was no bridge to get there. It just kind of happened. Like you're supposed to forget about it, and then like all of a sudden out of nowhere, said two guys, whatever, end up becoming like friends again. Everything was fine.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That was like old Vince booking. Like he wants you to forget that. By the way, that happened. But in fact, well, we can't forget it because it did happen, and we watched it. We watched it, and we watched pay-per-views and whatever and payoffs. I mean, that's what it felt like. Like at least the one thing I will give you with booking and wrestling a lot, not just today, but in the last 25 years, is that come hell or high water, even if they want to put something to end, there's an end point. There's actually a something written in the story where it comes to an end or it bridges that way. With this, it didn't feel that way. He just all of a sudden out of nowhere turned babyface again.
Yeah, and now look, and I think they did. It seems to me like okay, I think they had a hard end in mind that at SummerSlam that was going to be the end of it, and they were going to go back to him being babyface.
Mhm.
But it seems like they didn't have any plan, like how to do it.
I think the plan was, and based on what we saw for the first like couple months, let's just go have throwbacks and nostalgia. Let's throw the Punks, let's throw the Ortons, let's throw all, and they're still doing it with Brock. But the story really here with Cena that should have been told was, you guys for 20 something years didn't respect me. You guys, the fans, can stick it. Basically, taking the clue from Hogan, for example.
Yeah,
And unlike Hogan, like yeah, Hogan got a little bit of they had a rough period in WCW before he turned heel. But John Cena's, I could argue, was even more harsh because there were years upon years he was still getting booed. You know, even 2016 till the end of his run, his full time run.
yeah,
I just watched one of the matches from the SummerSlam rankings that we're going to cover next week, and the number 2 match was him against AJ Styles. And John Cena comes out and he's getting booed as shit in 2016.
yeah,
So that's a story you tell there, and I don't know what happened. I can speculate, and we've said on the show, I know for a fact from me that the reason why this thing did not work long term is because when you put a end date on this whole thing, when there's an actual end date to the Cena's run, that's why I was saying, is the end date real, or is it just like something that we're just supposed to pay attention to and move on and start coming? But the end date is real, apparently. Um, then that means it took the juice out of the fuel out of the story, because like, okay, so then what are we doing now? We're working backwards now. So that's what really hurt it was just ultimately was the fact that we knew that, okay, after December he ain't here anymore. So let's jam everything in we can now between January and December. And after the shock value of the turn, what else you got?
yeah.
And they relied on nostalgia, and to me, it wasn't enough.
Now, look, and to me, that was a very simple fix, though.
What, what,
Well,
okay, let me ask you this: what should they have done? I think that's the main question.
okay.
What would you have written in the story?
Um, okay, so I mean, to me, a very simple fix is just you just have when Brock Lesnar came out there and killed him at the end of SummerSlam, you have The Rock be the one to send Brock Lesnar out there.
Yeah, I want to. And look, this is another angle of the story too, because The Rock was involved in the story initially, and
Yeah,
then he hasn't
I
been
think,
seen since the Nation Chamber.
yeah, and that was, I mean, I think that is to me that is the biggest thing that hurt it because I mean, the Elimination Chamber, he sold out to go do The Rock to side with The Rock,
Yes,
right? So, and then we didn't, and then The Rock was not there the whole entire rest of the story.
I've been there since. But now in August, now close to the end of August, and or middle of August rather, and we have not still seen The Rock. We thought, okay, maybe you see him this event, not there.
Yeah,
We thought
because
SummerSlam, not there.
well, because they showed hints of him along the way of him. There were a couple of times where they showed where it looked like he was, having some doubt about what he was doing, and so you could, I mean, so you could have referred back to that as far as him, switching back before SummerSlam,
Mhm.
right? And then, then you do the match with him and Cody. He loses fair and square. He shakes Cody's hand, and then you could have The Rock show up at the, out at the end of the stage or whatever, and he could come out there. He could even just kind of berate him like you failed and blah blah blah, and then there's consequences for failure or whatever, and then you right, and then you play Brock music, and then Brock comes out there and just lays him out, and then that makes more sense. Brock showing up at the Rock's, the Rock sending Brock Lesnar out there to punish Cena for failure that actually makes sense, and then that cements the him turning babyface again, right? He
Yeah,
listened to his conscience. He decided to fight Cody, straight up and not cheat or whatever. He loses fair and square, and then the Rock, the final boss, isn't here for that, and then he sends out Brock Lesnar to punish him, right?
The only good thing about I will say about seeing turning babyface before the actual match at SummerSlam was that it did add the kernel of doubt about Cody. And when you have a kernel of doubt, that's good. They want that. They want you to overthink the room
Yeah, and
because
then
they didn't turn him.
well, the other thing I think that was good about it was that by him going into that match as a babyface, they just got to go out there and just have a 5-star, whatever kind of match. They, that now that because and that he didn't have to worry about doing because sometimes like the heel stuff can take away. I mean, it's good for story purposes, but you know, it's hard to have a 5-star match if one guy is legit working heel and is taking shortcuts and and doing heel kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if he wanted to get one of these, again, quote unquote 5-star matches in during this last run, it's better, it was better to do it as a babyface. And so they went out there and they did that. And yeah, I give him all the credit in the world. Like he's what almost 50 or they went 37 minutes. And at almost 50 years old, for him to go out there and go 37 minutes like that. And they weren't, sitting on a headlock for 25 of it. Right.
Right.
So to, so for me, him going back to babyface before that match, it enabled them to do that when they got in the ring. Um, so I think that is one positive out of it. But I mean, yeah, I mean, The Rock not being involved in the rest of the way just completely just screwed up everything.
It did,
And
and it does lend, Rob, and you probably agree with this or not. I don't know if we do. We haven't discussed this really in detail because we just don't know if it's real or not. That there's probably some real life issues between him and Hunter. And maybe they had a disagreement about the storyline, and then The Rock said, "Well, I'm out then," and it pretty much left Cena hanging. I mean, it looks that way because the story
well,
didn't make any sense with The Rock not being involved in it. It didn't make any sense. And I thought maybe, okay, WrestleMania, fine. Okay, but he'll come back by SummerSlam, right? Surely. And now we're past SummerSlam and has not shown up yet. And it adds more speculation to like the fact that maybe The Rock and Hunter had some issues back in March on whatever it may be. Whether it was storytelling reasons, other things. By the way, The Rock is also now a board member too. So technically The Rock is Triple H's boss. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
maybe those things may have happened, and there you go. I don't know. Do you think there was something to that effect, which ultimately snowballed the Cena turn?
Well, I think okay. Well, it sounded like just from what The Rock said after WrestleMania and all that, it sounded like he wasn't originally going to be involved at all, and then they kind of called him in last minute to do the elimination chamber thing, and they didn't really. So, and then they didn't really have any plans after that,
By
And
the way, I know you mentioned. I know we mentioned Unreal. That one of the episodes, like episode 4, they go into the whole thing. They break
okay,
down how the whole thing was put together, and it was closed. It was pretty much closed doors. Like basically, only 5 people knew about the turn initially. I think it was like Hunter, The Rock, Cody, Cena. I think one of the creatives knew. Um, because they want to keep it fresh and everybody's surprised. But the way to put it together, like The Rock was initially on it. I think Bruce Pritchard's the one that actually mentioned through the idea of him turning him heel, and then Triple H goes into the story of how like he called Cena with the idea after all the writers agreed to the idea, and Cena was kind of like interesting, and in the way he brought in the conversation was really well explained how they did that. Like I said, I really want to review the show with you after you watch it. I'm almost done. I'm on the last episode though, but yeah, I think a lot of outside forces in addition to the outside forces could be argued was what put this thing on ice quicker than it probably should have because you know the story does not make any sense at that point. If Cena's turning because of The Rock and what The Rock's influence, and then The Rock doesn't show up anymore, okay, then what story are we telling at this point now? Like, yeah, Cena has issue with the WWE universe and the years they've not appreciated him, but I mean, beyond that, though, I mean, what else do you have? And
And
I
also
don't know.
like he had issue with he always just pushed through it before. Like
Yes, right.
like something like there has to be some catalyst to make him just change his mind and decide to not put up with it anymore.
Yeah, because
And
he was getting cheered. Because it didn't make any sense. Because when he went away and he came back, I think started coming back every year, couple months to every year, he was getting cheered. He had gotten the results he wanted. I think people started appreciating him after you know WrestleMania 36, whatever. When he did the match against Bray Wyatt. Not the actual match, but the on screen match.
yeah,
Um, but he's gotten cheered. He's gotten cheered ever since. So he got the appreciation he wanted. So even that didn't make any sense. Even though he had a
yeah.
point saying they were 5 years too late to tell that story.
And then also, I mean, and what you and by having and then if the Rock was involved all the way along, then what you do is you have moments where Cena is doubting his decision, and then you have the Rock there to jerk his chain.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's very much like I mean, it's like for Star Wars fans out there, it's like Anakin Skywalker and then the Emperor, right? I mean, there were times where after he was Darth Vader, where then there've been like books and comics where they've kind of spelled this out. There have been times where he was basically ready just to say, "Oh, screw this. I'm done with the Emperor." Blah blah blah. And
Right.
the Emperor will always get wind of it and yank his chain and make him fall back in line. Right. And I mean, if and that should have happened a few times along the way. And then, and then and then you have Cena finally just say, you know what, enough of this. This isn't who I am. Blah blah blah. And then you could have ended it with, and again, since they brought Brock Lesnar back, all you had to do was have Brock Lesnar be sent out there to punish Cena for failing and for giving back into his conscience, and you just have the Rock send Brock Lesnar out there to annihilate him, and and then you get to the next part of the story with Cena being babyface again, now having to deal with Brock Lesnar, right?
Right.
That would have see all of that. To me, that would have made the story work. That have made it, to me, that would have been perfect. And then you could have fit that in to 6 months
Yeah.
and then move on because yes, I mean, you do want to give the final babyface run. I mean, you didn't want that just to be a month, right? You do want some time to soak that all in and everything. So, but there were just yeah, I mean, there were just things that were missing along the way, and it seemed to me like they just didn't have any real direction, as far as where this thing was supposed to go. And again, they
Right.
just like you said, they had a few opponents picked out, Randy, Punk, and then R Truth thrown in there, and then and that was it, and it's disappointing because we remember when it started, we were saying this had a chance to be up there with Hogan and with Roman as far
We
as
could put we could
big
put that to bed
turn.
right now, brother.
Yeah. And yeah, and
Because
then
yeah, we knew. But to be fair, you and I even said that if it's going to have a chance to be in that conversation, it has to. There's a lot of things it has to do to get to that point. Like the
yeah,
moment, obviously, I would say the moment was bigger than Roman's. The actual moment, but
because Roman's actual turn, like it was spread out over a couple of weeks.
right, we weren't sure. We were still figuring it out.
Right.
With
Because he came
Hogan's the
back as a
biggest.
big
Right,
yeah,
Hogan's
he
the
did.
biggest one because it was cultural. It not just affected wrestling. That company and what he did, it had a cultural effect.
Yeah, on the entire business.
Right,
Uh,
anything outside
and
of it. Yep.
yeah, and it's yeah, this ended up just I mean, com- relative to what could have been, I'd say it was dud, and
Yeah, yeah. And again, I'll say it as I said before. You put a expiration date on this whole thing, it's gonna take the life out of it, and it did that for me. Um, I am curious though. Like I said, you have 4 more months now. We got Brock here. I mean, you can easily get the last 4 months on the Brock. I mean, it's coming full circle, obviously, because Brock Lesnar and him started OVW, and they've had a rivalry, and
Yeah.
we're 10 plus years removed from the Suplex City SummerSlam match, which we discussed on here before, between him and Lesnar, doing Lesnar's fantastic title run, until 14-15. So we'll see where this goes, man. But like I said, it gets a C only because the actual turn was effective. Once we got a month into it, 2 months into it, it just died. And that's it.
Yeah, because it turned into just basically Cena throwing like a 6 month tantrum, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it just, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.